Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of a fascinating gentleman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. As you know, Her Story is about women's stories, but we are welcoming men to come and speak on our platform as well. In fact, 25% of my guests are male, and especially if they have a topic that relates to families. So you are going to love this interview today. So welcome to the show. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Well, hey, Miss Gertrude. I'm very, very happy to join you. My name is Max Kerr. I am a dentist in Austin, Texas. I am surrounded by very strong women, so I'm excited to be on the podcast. My wife and I have two daughters, so this is extremely important to me, the work that you're doing, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So, as we sat in the living room after our Thanksgiving meal, it sounded as if someone was starting a chainsaw off in the distance. There she goes again, chuckled one of the grandkids. It was Nana, my mother-in-law. We found humor in my mother-in-law snoring. We joked about it. We rolled our eyes. It was loud, it was disruptive, and it felt harmless. Nobody wanted to sleep in the same room as her. Then one afternoon after work, after a long day of work, it was a beautiful Texas spring day. I walk into my house and my wife has her hands in her face and she is sobbing. Her mother, the matriarch of our family, the strongest woman I know, had just had a stroke. What we failed to understand was that the warning signs weren't subtle. They had been happening every single night while she slept. That moment changed how I sleep, or how I see sleep forever. Most of us think of sleep as rest, but millions of people, sleep is a nightly struggle for air. One of the most dangerous health signals we have doesn't happen while we're awake. It happens while we're asleep. Sleep apnea doesn't look like an illness. It looks like normal life. And for women, it's often invisible. In women, sleep apnea frequently shows up not as loud gasping or irritable snoring, but as exhaustion, anxiety, brain fog, insomnia, and a quiet sense that something just isn't right. It's often dismissed as stress. Maybe it's your hormones, or maybe we're just getting a little old. Estimates suggest that 10 to 15% of all women and as many as 20 to 25% of postmenopausal women suffer from sleep apnea. Yet the majority remain undiagnosed. We miss it for predictable reasons. Well, first of all, we rely on outdated stereotypes. I am not a big fat man, old man. We normalize exhaustion. I have to deal with my family. I have to take care of them all the time. We push through it and we fear what testing might actually reveal because we don't want to be on that CPAP machine. So we laugh it off. We accept it. We sleep through it. After my mother in law's stroke, I began treating patients with sleep apnea as a dentist. I listened to their stories, the fatigue, the irritability, the mental fog, the not feeling well rested, and I recognized myself. I shared many of the same symptoms of my patients. I too had sleep apnea. I hadn't noticed because living tired had just become my normal. I had a family, I had a business. I thought this was just what being an adult was. That realization reframed everything. If I could miss it, how many others were missing it too? But this talk isn't about fear or blame. More than anything, I want you to have an awareness. So, in order for us to be aware, I offer a simple framework that anybody can use: REST, R.E.S.T. First and foremost, recognize, recognize that sleep apnea is common, especially in women. E, evaluate your life honestly. If you don't feel good, then it's okay to ask questions. Your energy, your mood, your focus, if it's not where you want it to be, let's try to find out how to get there. And symptoms, S, listen to the symptoms your body is whispering to you before they become a crisis. Are you waking up multiple times throughout the night? Do you just not feel like you can get up in the morning? Is there something more for you out there? And ultimately, T, test. Today's testing is simple, it's safe, and the grand majority of it is done from the comfort of your own bed in your own home. Now, this just isn't about sleep, it's about prevention. People that have sleep apnea are much more likely to have dementia and Alzheimer's. They're much more likely to have a heart attack or a stroke, just like my mother in law did. So it's about prevention, it's about presence, it's about protecting your future and the moments that you want to live fully. Imagine standing at your grandkid's wedding, seeing the light glistening off of the beautiful ring that your granddaughter just got and the beautiful dress that she has. Or imagine your grandson smiling when he first sees his wife coming down the aisle. And imagine you being there, laughing, dancing, fully there, engaging in the whole experience. Well, that future depends on what you do now. Because in order to get there, you have to breathe well and you have to sleep well. If we can help people breathe while they're asleep, we don't just add years to their life, we add life to their years. We save families and we protect futures. And it all starts by paying attention to what happens when we close our eyes.
Wow, Max, your story is incredible. You know, when you and I met, it was like deja vu because you are telling my story. I think I told you I ended up collapsing with congestive heart failure, and I had to use a CPAP machine for almost 3 years. And I've just started to feel normal in the last couple of years. A lot of people take for granted what snoring really is telling us, what it's indicating in terms of what's actually wrong in your body. Now, you had a traumatic personal experience seeing your mother in law who used to snore. You guys used to laugh about it. You mentioned the shift from we laughed about it to our world fell apart. What do families most misunderstand about snoring?
Well, they think it's a joke, and I think we titled this perfectly. Stop laughing at snoring. It could be a stark warning, right, or a stroke warning for that matter. Um, we see it in the movies, we see it in the cartoons. It's kind of cute. And then there's the image of the sawing log, right? And so we've been conditioned to believe that this is a variation of normal in the human condition. The problem, though, just like you mentioned, that means that the airflow from the outside of your body to the inside of your body is terribly inefficient. Air should just, in fact, people shouldn't really know if you're breathing or not while you're asleep. And anytime that that airway gets slightly constricted or even obstructed, there's going to be an audible sound. That being
Yes.
said, sleep apnea doesn't really, people that have sleep apnea doesn't mean that they snore all the time. Even people that don't snore have sleep apnea. And
Mm,
so it's just this silent killer that it's basically like somebody slightly holding your airway closed throughout the night. And when that happens, your body tries to fight it. It goes through a fight or flight response. That means your heart rate's going to go up. That means your blood pressure goes up. And we know that when your blood pressure goes up, you're at a higher risk for heart disease and stroke. And so you're battling every single night when your airway's not open. And
yeah.
so that's why snoring is something to pay attention to.
Now, why is sleep health still so dismissed, even by high performers and healthy people, do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of that's an amazing question, and I've wrestled with this question quite often.
Yeah.
You know, we don't make a good practice of the things that we tend to do routinely. Just that's the human condition. We always think that the problem is a little bit further outside of us than we actually are willing to deal with, or that, for whatever reason, we want to maybe do those things because they tend to be a little bit more exciting or they draw our attention, because a
Yes.
lot of the stuff that we can improve upon is just within not only our soul but our body at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't walk well, there's a lot of people that don't breathe well, and there's definitely a lot of people that can't sleep well. So I
Yeah.
do think that, when we talk about the fundamentals of just human physiology and human thriving, we have to look as close to us as we possibly can, and I believe breathing and sleep are true in that regard.
Yeah. Now, you said that saving sleep can save families. What have you seen change in homes when treatment begins?
So thank you for asking that question. This is what really fires me up. I've
Mm,
treated thousands of patients. Many of them are older individuals. Some of them, just like my mother-in-law, have already had a stroke. And
yeah.
so if I can get to these individuals prior to the stroke or prior to the congestive heart failure, then I know that it's going to make them more present with the people that they love. And even
Mm,
me personally, I know that if I don't sleep well, I'm not going to be the man that I want to be for my daughters. I'm going to be curt, I'm going to be short, and I'm going to be rude. And I don't want to be that way, but just because I haven't got good sleep, I tend to act that way. You've heard halt, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. And if we're halting, then it's not fun for anybody around us. And so for me to fully show up for my children and for my daughters, what I really want to do is I want to sleep well, I want to eat well, and I want to move well so I can act who I believe I am from a soul level. And if we can give that to everybody that has any sort of sleep problems, then I know their life, like I said, is good. It's going to be well lived, and there's going to be a lot of life within them, more years. On
mm,
average, we see that people live about 7 years longer if their sleep apnea is treated. However, if it's not treated, we lose about 7 years at the back end of our life. And so that's the whole idea. Let's try to squeeze as much out of this life as we possibly can. And in doing so, let's add more fun life to it.
So, what is the biggest myth that you wish you could delete from the public thinking about sleep apnea?
That's a great question. The myth that I rail against, there's essentially two. First and foremost, that I have to go into a lab to get home tested or to get sleep tested.
Yes.
Nowadays, with portable devices, with the cloud, we can do sleep testing very accurately from the comfort of anybody's own home. And then, secondarily, one of the things that I really want us to try to understand as a community is sleep apnea doesn't just affect obese people.
Mm,
Every people that walk into my practice, all shapes and sizes, all
yeah.
age ranges, men, women, there's really no gender bias or even race bias in this. It affects everybody. There's all kinds of reasons why we believe this is happening. And if we had more time, I'd probably talk to you for about 3 hours on that. But that being said, it is a condition that we are currently dealing with as a human species.
Mm. Now, you discovered your own sleep issues too. How did that shift your empathy and your leadership as a clinician?
Well, you know, When you talk about caregiving, I think it has to come first and foremost from recognizing humanity. That's why I love the work that you do so much.
Mm,
And it's so much easier when you can share similar share something similar with the
yes.
person in front of you. And so by me understanding every single symptom that my patients have gone through, I know what they're feeling and I can address not only their concerns because I have the same concerns. Is the treatment going to be effective? What can I expect through treatment? Is this going to be something that goes on through my whole life, or is this something that I can just deal with right now?
Mm,
And also, all the what when it comes to trying to figure out how difficult treatment is and whether I'm going to be consistent with treatment, and even like pro tips, like the things that I've run into, because I'm probably a middle of the road individual. I'm committed to certain things. I'm not committed to others. And so I can kind of understand and reinforce any concerns that people might have, or at least allay those concerns.
that's just amazing. Now, your wife's experience sounded frightening. Share that story with us. What does that teach you about how deeply sleep affects mental health and anxiety?
That's a great question. So my wife has um, it's called upper airway resistant syndrome, UARS. And so our upper airway is very dynamic. As we draw a breath in, it slightly collapses, and as we breathe out, it slightly expands.
Right.
Now, the problem when this occurs while we're sleeping is that even in the absence of sleep apnea, which means your oxygen rate drops. So, when this occurs, as you're drawing a breath in while you're asleep, your body can go through a fight or flight response. So it feels as though something is trying to close the airway down. And so this was going on with her. We didn't know what was actually happening until I actually really started digging into it. But in the middle of the night, my wife would have what's known as night terrors. Now, night terrors for her really ended up being her punching and kicking me in the middle of the night. I thought that I was doing something incorrectly, right? And so finally, we got her a test, and it didn't even show that she had sleep apnea, but I knew something was going on,
Yes.
especially at the very towards the end of what was going on. Our 2-year-old daughter was sleeping with us in bed. She grabbed our 2-year-old daughter in the middle of the night and started running out of the house. Now, again, as a protector, I was like, hey, we have got to figure this thing out. And so we were able to treat her with a little oral appliance. It was like a night guard that could help bring her tongue off of the back of her throat. And once we stabilized her airway, almost overnight, no pun intended, those those events where she would punch, kick, or run went away. And so ultimately what we found was that she was just hypersensitive to any sort of airway collapse, whether it be a true apneic collapse or just a slight deformation of her upper airway, and she would go through a fight or flight response. And I happened to be the person that she fought, which is kind of, that's why we love each other.
Wow. So, what is the link between poor sleep and things like heart disease, stroke, dementia, in simple human language?
Okay, thank you very much. So, twofold. First and
Mhm.
foremost, when our airway closes down, our body goes through a fight or flight response. Fight or flight, just like if we were trying to run away from a tiger. Fight or flight means your airway or your heart rate's going to go up and your blood pressure is going to go up because your blood is trying to get all the oxygen to all the areas that need to move because we got to get away from that thing that's trying to kill us. And
Right.
so if that happens multiple times throughout the night, we're essentially running a marathon in the middle of the night when we should be just totally relaxed. And so that really stresses our cardiovascular system. Secondarily, what ends up happening is we fragment the sleep throughout the night. So what ends up happening when we go through these fight or flight responses, we arise out of sleep. Now, this could be either consciously or unconsciously, but what ends up happening is we arise out of sleep, our airway opens back up, then we drift back off to sleep. For some individuals, this happens over 30 times per hour. Now, if you can imagine, sleep is a time dependent routine that we have got to use in order to get the full breadth and benefit of the restoration of sleep. So if constantly we're waking up throughout the night, we're really shortchanging not only the deep sleep, but especially the REM sleep. And when you shortchange those phases of sleep, Our brain doesn't get washed and recuperated the way it should. And so we're much more likely to build up plaques and build up all these things that could lead to dementia and Alzheimer's. That has nothing to say for all the memory or the memory loss, as well as even just the feeling of anxiety or depression, which kind of is this stress response that never goes away because we don't get restorative sleep when we're waking up multiple times throughout the night.
And so you wake up exhausted. I distinctly
Exhausted.
remember this. I used to feel like I had run a marathon first thing in the morning. I was
Exactly.
so tired. It's just I wasn't getting enough oxygen while I was sleeping.
Yes,
Wow.
ma'am.
Now, walk us through what a home sleep test looks like and what you want people to stop fearing about it.
So it's Sleep Better Austin, and we call it Frontier Sleep, which is our home testing wing of what we do. We have what's known as a Sleepify device. Now, the grand majority of these home sleep tests are very similar. There will be a pulse oximeter on your finger, and there will be a little wrist cuff that goes on your wrist, and that is all it is. And it
Okay.
measures how you're sleeping. Specifically, it measures your blood oxygen content, your heart rate variability, and all of these things that impact our body as we're sleeping. It also measures position and any incidences of snoring. And so,
Wow.
with that data, we're able to see how often you're waking up throughout the night based upon what metrics. And it's just as simple as a little bracelet that goes over the wrist and something that goes over your finger.
Wow.
In fact, I personally believe that home sleep testing is much better than an in-lab test. While we don't get quite as much data from
Yes.
home, it's just the most natural position that we can be in, which is that's what we're really trying to achieve, is see how you actually are in the wild, so to speak.
Wow. So it's a simple test and you can do it at home.
Yeah, and oftentimes the companies, including mine, will mail it to you.
Okay. So you're building a nationwide vision and expanding into sleep wellness. Why is an integrated approach of nutrition, lifestyle, and stress so important, do you think?
Well, that's everything, Miss Gertrude. This is the way that we have to interact with people, not just patients. These are people. We have a whole life, and so we need to treat people wholly. I always say if you eat well, breathe well, sleep well, and move well, you're likely going to live well.
Yeah.
And so this sleep affects every single aspect of that. If you're not breathing well, you're not going to sleep well. If you're not going to sleep well, you're not going to move well. And if you're not going to move well, you're likely not going to eat well.
Yes.
First and foremost, because of the stress response. And so, everything that we need to do within sleep and what we try to do with my organization is to assess the individual, give them good actionable treatments so that way not only do they start breathing well, they start sleeping well, and then once we have that, we want them to move well as eat well. And then we just know life just flourishes when we're doing those things well.
It's a very holistic approach to sleep wellness. It's not just one thing,
Correct.
everything is integrated. Now, if you could give our listeners a simple, memorable framework, what would it be and how can they apply it this week?
So I think rest, R-E-S-T. I think first and foremost, you have to recognize that sleep apnea is a thing. It's not just your obese uncle over there that's hanging out and falling asleep while they're watching football. Um, So recognize that sleep apnea affects 20 to 25% of every individual in the world, and for especially for postmenopausal women. Traditionally, about 10 to 15% of women have sleep apnea. This is across all age domains. Number two is rest, or number two in rest is E. So we want to evaluate your life. You have to actually pay attention to what's going on around you, and specifically within your own body. If you're constantly anxious, if you constantly don't have a whole lot of energy, if you don't feel like moving all that well, if you're just having trouble putting thoughts together, these are all signs that we're not sleeping very well. So R, recognize, E, evaluate, S, symptoms. So define your symptomology. Find out what sleep looks like to you. Are you going to bed on time? Are you waking up on time? Are you waking up feeling refreshed? Are you waking up multiple times throughout the night? Is there any snoring involved? Does your bed partner say that they notice you stop breathing? These are all symptoms. Do you have high blood pressure? Do you have diabetes? These are all symptoms that could be impacted by sleep apnea. And then finally, R.E.S.T, test, 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 test. It's of my belief that home sleep testing should be as ubiquitous as any sort of blood panel that you would get from any physician, because it's upstream of everything. If you're not sleeping very well, then likely your blood panels are going to be a little bit skewed. And so I believe testing is very important. And because it's so easy and so affordable, that's definitely what I recommend. REST, R-E-S-T.
Beautiful. That is so easy to remember. I'm really glad you've got it wrapped in an acronym that applies to the work that you're doing as well. That is awesome. Now, what values drive your work when it gets hard? And what keeps you showing up to do this work?
Well, thank you, Gertrude. Now, selfishly, I want rest. I love sleep. Sleep is one of my favorite things to do, and I hope that everybody enjoys it as much as I do. I know that's not the case, but I absolutely love sleep. But really, and this is maybe pie in the sky, and I don't tell a whole lot of people this, but I think in such a broken, difficult world that we live in currently, what I'm noticing is that everybody is just so stressed, and I think that that stress response spills out into the actions that we have with people around us. And so if we can give people just rest, that's going to give them that space between impulse and action that will allow them to choose a better path, or choose the path that more aligns with their spirit. So I do believe that if we could get everybody sleeping well, we would see less strife, we would see more enjoyment, we would see more presence with our loved ones. I would be, if I, when I sleep well, I'm so much better at the people that I love. And what I want for everybody is to have that rest so they can truly show up and allow their soul to shine, because that's what that's what makes this world beautiful, is that if everybody can kind of expand themselves into the world around us in a positive way that's focused on improving humanity. I mean, just think about the world that we would live in. And I think we have to sleep well, we have to breathe well, we have to eat well, and we have to move well in order for those to truly come to be.
That is so true. My last two questions for you are a bit of a thought experiment. And the first one, I'm going to teleport you back into the past, maybe before your mother-in-law had the stroke. If you could go back and give yourself 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
Whew. So I'm going to do, it's a great question. So the one thing that I've told a young man when his coming of age rite that we all had as a tribe, I said, learn and seek a deep connection with not only yourself but your creator. So I think it's always important to understand who you are and the purpose that you've been put on this world to figure out, right? And so if I were to tell my younger self, I'd dive into that, because I do believe my purpose in this world is to help people breathe and sleep better. Secondarily, I would tell myself to be more of a student, as opposed to, having all the answers already. I think that sleep apnea and treating sleep apnea came across my desk 2 or 3 times, but in my head, I thought it wasn't a big problem, and I thought that there was no way I was going to be able to affect it. And then number 3 is just pay attention to people's symptoms. So often as a dentist, I need to see x-rays, and oftentimes I just get very clinical and I treat the disease as opposed to the person that has the disease. And I do believe that so much information is given to us through the lived experience, that I believe that if I'm slowing down, if I'm in alignment with my purpose, if I'm more of a student and I'm paying attention to the world around me, I'll know how to affect it better. And those are the 3 things that I would tell my younger self.
Absolutely amazing advice. Yeah, being present, I think, is everything in life. And being aware that you don't cross paths with people by mistake. There
Amen.
is divine guidance that brings us together. My last question for you is futuristic. You mentioned looking into the future. And I think I told you when we met, my whole life changed when my grandson was born. I can see the vision of me dancing at his wedding someday, on my feet, vibrant and healthy. If I could teleport you into the future to go and have a conversation with the older you, this wise 90-year-old man who's sitting in his rocking chair, surrounded by his children, his grandchildren, or maybe you're on a dance floor somewhere with science and technology, you'll probably be on your feet. What will you say to this wise man when you finally meet him?
That's a tough question. I'd give myself a hug, and then I'd tell you I'm proud of you, buddy. Um, because in my world, I believe success is making sure that when I am 90, that I have a Thanksgiving table surrounded by people that I love, and they all want to be there. And so if I'm at this wedding, no doubt things have gone well. And then I'd also let myself know that that I made an impact. There's that story of the the two kids are walking across the beach, and all these starfish were washed up on the sand, and one kid, and I mean, I'm talking there was tens of thousands of them, and one kid was taking one starfish and throwing it back into the ocean. And then the other kid says, "Man, there's no way you can impact all this. You can't clean all this up. You can't get all the starfish back into the ocean." Um, and then the kid picks up one starfish. He's like, "You're right, but I can do this one, and I can make sure that this starfish has the opportunity to live." And that's my mission. That's my goal. I know I'm not going to make a huge dent in sleep apnea and treating people, but I know I can impact one person. And that's going to be everything to me.
Absolutely beautiful, Max. Wow, what an honor to have you on our show today. Thank you so much for coming online and sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your expertise in this area. A lot of people need to be aware of this. How can people reach you? What is the best way for them to connect with you? And what do you offer as a service?
So what we do in Austin, Texas, is we treat patients that have sleep apnea. We don't use a traditional CPAP. We use a mouthpiece, an oral device. We also help people get tested. So I have two organizations. One's Frontier Sleep and Wellness, and one is Sleep Better Austin. That eventually is going to go nationwide, and hopefully it'll be Frontier nationwide. That's going to happen over the next, I would say 18 months or so. But just for people that have questions, I'm very easily reachable at on Instagram. My handle is Dr. Max K, as well as Twitter or X or whatever we call it now. It's at the Max Kerr. And so those are the two ways that I am most responsive.
Fantastic. Thank you, Max. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of people from all over the world. We share these stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to educate you on how to live healthy and vibrant lives. So if you are somebody who's aware that you are snoring, please get it checked. Or if you know somebody who is, share this podcast, tag your friends on social media, your family, make people aware of the dangers of not sleeping well and what snoring is really trying to say to you. It could be a warning that you might have a stroke. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Max, thank you again for this amazing.
Thank you for the amazing opportunity. I'm honored.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story. Thank you so